Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hero's Journey. You're with your co-hosts, Michael Harris and Joel Sadler. Michael Harris is an entrepreneur and a behavioral strategist who's been working with people to unlock high performance in their personal life, family life, work life for many years now. Worked with hundreds of people. My name's Joel Sadler, and I've worked with businesses and entrepreneurs, helping them grow in terms of their businesses online, but also their mindset, stretching what's possible and coming up with new strategies for them to make more revenue, which results in ultimately freedom for them and their families. We invite you to subscribe to our channel if you enjoy talking about personal growth, development, and that type of topic. Today's topic, we're going to cover off karmic lessons or lessons that keep coming up over and over again to remind us, little taps on the shoulder. Either there might be some more work that we need to do, or it's just triggers that are so deeply embedded that they keep coming up from time to time. There's probably many different reasons why they do. I was sharing one with Mike earlier where I had a bit of a rupture, which is called a bit of a, emotional kind of breakdown, or not a breakdown, but a bit of a spaz internally. I've been getting up really early these days, working on some projects. And what that does mean is at the end of the day, I'm quite tired. So that's where I feel most vulnerable in my vulnerable space. And, my tank's empty and I'm just feeling a bit tired and grumpy at times. And I just was feeling unheard at the time. I was trying to converse with my wife and share something which was pretty important to me. And she was listening, but then the kids kept interrupting and I kind of just lost. And I was like, oh, well, if you're not going to listen to me, then whatever, kind of gave up on the whole thing, and it triggered me. And I remembered that afterwards, I remembered that was very much a how I felt sometimes as a child, and I made that mean a negative thing as I was trying to explain and share stuff with adults in my life that couldn't quite understand neither what I was talking about or didn't want to hear what I was talking about, or it challenged them or whatever it was. But that obviously caused an emotional trauma in me, and that comes up over time. So I suppose it's an example of what we're talking about. And I know, Mike, you've been through some things as well, but do you want to give us a little bit of insight, in terms of maybe situations that have come up for you, but also maybe a definition of what you'd call that type of scenario, and then some outworkings you've seen throughout your
Sure.
clients
Yeah, I
and
think
your
we
own
were
life,
kind
you
of
know?
touching
Mm,
on
mm,
the base. I think I shared with you too that from a few different people I follow from,
mm,
astrology and what's coming down to us here on Earth because everything comes from out.
mm,
Everything's connected. The universe is connected. Everything is part of it. And so, I think we've touched on this too before, as above, so below, the macro, the stars, the planets, the alignments,
yeah.
all the energy coming from that, all the coding into the micro inside our own bodies and how that all connects. And if you look at the Earth right now, it's going through massive shifts, changes you hear. And this is the 10th of the 10th, 2024 too, for
Mm,
is the day we're recording this. And the reason I share that is that there's been some big spikes in energy in the Schumann resonance, which is an energy that's picked up from the Earth, and it's showing lots of spikes. There's a lot of people I'm following, explaining and showing that
mm,
as consciousness overall is expanding, obviously it's bringing up stuff for us individually because again, everything's connected. So it's like this big program is kind of shifting at the moment, and the program collectively is raising consciousness and is shifting. And as that does that for us individuals, it's bringing up old patterns, old stuff, old wounds, resentments, old programs that are no longer serving us. It's bringing them to the surface for us to look at and to address,
mm,
which links back to what we were just talking about, where I just in the last few days, Friday, Saturday, dealt with some really old patterns that would go back
mm,
to my mum that were being manifested in my ex-partner, my child's mum, and my child.
mm,
Because, these people we attract into our lives, your partners, your children, they are there as mirrors to play out those old parts. And I got to really observe stuff that I was seeing in my son as I was getting frustrated it was a reminder that it was actually about my own wounding and frustration from childhood around the
Mm,
same age with my mum. And so
mm,
me then seeing this stuff and having to help him deal with it was really about me healing these old parts within inside myself. And that's
yeah,
kind of what you just shared that came up around your mum too. So there's a
yeah,
lot of people that I'm speaking to at the moment where these old energies, these old things are being exposed and we're being presented with these opportunities to then get in and clear them and to do some healing around them.
yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it interesting? Yeah, how it stems back to, I was listening to a another video podcast, and it was more around criminality and psychotic behavior and that sort of thing. You know, those things pop up on your YouTube channel. So I clicked on this one and read it. It was quite interesting. And the specialist was saying, quite interesting, talking about around the age of 8 or 9, how formative those years are and the way that you learn to handle
Mm.
um, failure or challenging situations or fearful situations or whatever is kind of imprinted around that age, they reckon. And then that
Yeah.
as he talks to someone, he can very quickly figure out what their behavior or their coping mechanisms were when they're 8 or 9 years old. And is
Yeah.
it interesting how often that stuff's so embedded when we're little and it keeps coming up? You know, I really love how the work that I've done with you, and I know the work you've done, how we can actually observe this and actually choose to respond a different way as an adult, as opposed to reacting like that child would have done, at 8 or 9 or younger or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And how that models a difference to our kids. I think we talk about it quite often, but that
Yeah.
really, really excites me.
Yeah.
And what I realize is that what people that are listening that are doing this work along with us as well, they're actually creating a different world. Like we're actually creating a new sort of pathway. It's like a new branch, or new behavioral pathway for our future generations. And, for me, that's a massive positive from doing the work, which is really challenging and really hard, at times when we get triggered and observe it and we just, I was beating myself. Oh, this is really terrible, terrible one. But this is a great example and I'll share it. So a good friend of mine, his partner lost her dad, and I went and saw them and, dropped off some flowers and said hello and that sort of stuff. And I said, I'll see you at the funeral. But I had an exam on that Tuesday that morning, and I was just a bit frazzled from that, and I just lost track of time, and I didn't go to the funeral,
Uh,
and I was like, oh man, like how bad is that? Like, just think about it on the face of it, right? Some people might think it's not that bad at all, but I was kind of mortified. I was like, oh no. So what did I do? I got out the stick and I was whacking my back all night, and I had to like just even going to sleep, falling asleep, I struggled to fall asleep. I was worrying about it, but I kind of just switched my brain off. And then the next morning, I was having a shower and I was kind of like, you know, what just happened there? Why did that play out? I'm going to stop beating myself up. And as some of the questions, you've taught me to ask, and we've asked is like, what was one reason why I didn't go there? One, I had the exam. But secondly, it was the loss of a father, and I lost my father when I was younger. So there could be a deeper reason there around grief and not wanting to subconsciously go through that and experience it again. I don't really know. I haven't dug deep on it, but I realized that, there's a rupture there with them as well. So I was thinking also all these excuses, oh, I could say this, I could say that, I could say that to, keep the relationship or whatever. But I just jumped on Facebook and group messaged both of them and said, look, I'm really sorry. And I was just authentic. I said, I had an exam on, my head was frazzled, I lost track of time. I've got no real good excuse. That's just it. I'm really sorry. I love you guys, and they were really graceful about it. But that's a classic example where, I managed to work through that situation, which is quite a big
confronting.
deal for some people, and for some people that'd be a real big deal.
What can I ask you a question
Mm,
just as we're
mm,
on it because it's really interesting to explore
mm.
it. Um, what did you make it mean about you, the fact that when the judgment started that you
Mm.
didn't go, what was the meaning that you made it about yourself that you were judging yourself on?
Oh, the failure, you know. I stuffed up or I effed up, and wasn't there to support them, and yeah, just started beating myself up, and yeah, yeah, just like I pride myself on being quite organized and methodical in life and in control, of my planning, and I'm building more and more discipline into my life. And so I was just like, how did I not put that in my calendar with alarms and alerts, and like have it planned into the routine,
Yeah.
and yes, just practically and logically, I had an exam and that was my full focus and that was full on. So that's just one reason, right? Is that, well, I was just overloaded with that scenario, you know?
Yeah. Is there
Um,
anything else, like why else at the time, at that moment,
mm,
doesn't make sense that you didn't go, that you didn't put it in your diary, or that
um,
you just forgot about it?
um, yeah, well, that's what I mean. I think, so, well, I suppose the other reason could be avoidance. As I mentioned, my dad died and that was pretty heavy, and there's still emotion around that. He died young. So I actually had two funerals for him. So I don't like funerals for dads. So
So
that's
even
probably
just
another
that, so
avoidance
maybe not
behavior
even
too.
just subconsciously so much
Mm,
as
mm,
because you're quite aware of it now, right? And it's one of the first things you shared that came out that you kind of
yeah.
think potentially subconsciously you avoided it. But what just came out then too is that,
Mm,
I don't like funerals and I don't like funerals for dads.
mm,
And so on the outside, it would make complete sense that you avoided that and didn't
mm,
prioritize it because you didn't want to have to face those old parts. That would make a lot of sense if
mm.
that was the
Yeah.
case.
Well, I thought about that and I started beating myself. I was like, well, yeah, that's right. Just get over it and like be there for your friends, like, you know what I mean? Like just get over that feeling and just push through it. And so yeah, I don't know. I'm still working on that, but I didn't stop at the time and think, oh, I'm not going to go because I want to avoid the pain of
Of course.
the memory.
Yeah.
Um, so maybe the exam timing was a convenience. I don't know, but I haven't really broken it down. But I
Very
suppose
cool.
the point is like there's obviously more work to do there to explore what's going on, but
You
I
kind of
managed
have
to.
broken it down there, and on the
Mm,
outside, it does make a lot of sense.
mm,
Whether it was, unconsciously done, consciously done, that part that was trying to protect itself makes sense. That was trying to protect the pain or the grief of having to sit back in that and having to face some of those old memories and
mm,
the loss of dad, and to bring that piece up. That would make a lot of sense.
mm,
And again, not right or wrong, but just
mm.
acknowledging it and giving that part compassion if that was the case.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, and then I think the big thing out the back end was just being authentic with those people, and yeah, it possibly was a bigger deal in my head than it was for them anyway, and it sounded like it. We often make things bigger in our own minds anyway. Um, you
Yeah,
know,
because it brings up all our own stuff, right? So for
mm,
them,
mm.
they'll be grieving. Who was it to them? It was their
It was the father of the lady.
Yeah, so father later, so she would have had lots of family to deal with. She's
Mm,
dealing with the shock and the grief of the fact
mm,
that her
mm,
father's just passed away. So they'll be very caught up in all that. And it makes also
mm,
complete sense as you come along because you're friends.
mm,
The lens you look at it through is that, well, I've let them down. They were my friends. I didn't show up for them. Whereas
mm.
their focus would be on, what's just happened, and they'll be dealing with lots of different people.
Yeah.
So we can't help but put our own lens subjectively into how we're judging the
Mm,
situation, right? And it always comes back to ourselves. So
mm.
that also makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
But a good work on
mm,
being
mm,
authentic and
mm,
again owning that part. And this is I listened to one of our previous videos yesterday around owning those parts, owning, what we call the shadow, the part that we want to hide and protect because we don't necessarily like it and we have some shame or are ashamed around it.
mm,
And so
mm,
we try and bury it and then it ends up running us anyway. Whereas
Mm,
what you managed to do yesterday was just acknowledge that part and own it, sit with it and be authentic and just share
mm,
from that place, in which case you've released yourself from the
mm,
hold that it would have
mm,
had over you. Had you not been authentic and had you kind of lied to yourself or lied to them, you would have felt
mm.
out of sorts around that. So,
100%. And I think that's the sort of point I'm making about getting validation from self and not from others.
yeah,
So when I went through a number of ways to reconcile, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to do it all in one group, one chat, with everybody, all open and honest, and just, I fucked up, I'm sorry, sort of thing. And not make up some bullshit excuse,
yeah,
and just say I don't really have an excuse. This is what was going on for me, but it's not good enough. I'm sorry, I love you, sort of thing. And they were really gracious, and so um that feels good, but it also feels authentic, and it doesn't sniff like it's some shitty, crappy excuse. You know what I mean? As well. And
yeah,
I think being able to be in that space and live life from that's quite freeing and quite liberal. You don't have to try and, I'm not trying to cover my ass. And it's the same with my work environment and home environment now. I just really own my own decisions, own my mistakes, and just am authentic about it, as opposed to trying to hide stuff or, um,
way
yeah,
more freeing, isn't it?
it's
It's
freeing.
way more
Yeah.
liberating and freeing,
Yep.
albeit confronting
Yes.
initially at
Yeah.
the time,
Yeah.
having to face some of those parts and own some of
Yeah.
the things you've done or not done, or how you've shown up.
Yeah.
But once you do, and you realize that it's actually not as scary as you thought, and you get to just sit with it and own it,
Yeah.
it liberates you and frees you from the hold.
100%,
And you
man.
feel like you're showing up for yourself with integrity.
Mm.
And again, if you go deeper, in a sense, it's having more self-compassion, because you're having compassion for those parts of you. You're not just trying to hide those parts. And
Mm.
so overall, you're building a deeper sense of trust with yourself, a
Mm.
deeper sense of trust that is then increasing your self-worth, because you're loving and showing up for all parts of you, not just one side of you.
100%.
Yeah.
And that, for me, that ties into the discipline journey and the self-validation journey. So I'm doing, the Wim Hof breathing, which I've shared with you, and then the cold showers and getting up at certain times. If I don't do that now, like if I miss the breathing or whatever, or in my diet, I'm, working out in the gym and cleaning my diet up. When I step outside of that zone now, I feel like I'm not beating myself up anymore about that, but I feel incongruent. I feel actually, hang on a minute, if I don't arrest that change or that slackness, or not, or if I don't step back into the routine now, then I'm letting myself down, and it's a slippery slope. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not a judgment thing. It's more of a desire to stay on track kind of thing, where it's coming from now. Where in the past I would have been like, oh, damn it, why did I eat that freaking like block of chocolate? Or why did I do that? Oh no, I haven't done that, and beat myself up. Now it's kind of like, okay, well, actually, you're off the track. Get back on and keep focused,
Yeah.
man. Keep focused on the bigger goal.
Yeah.
It's going to happen, but it is what it is, And I think
Beautiful.
that self-validation, as you mentioned, when the little lessons come up now, they don't take me right off track. It's kind of like, oh yeah, that's come up. It is what it is. Back on track. Let's keep moving forward.
Yeah,
It's
nice.
very
So the way
powerful
you're repairing with
change.
yourself,
Yeah.
the way you're showing up for yourself is with way more compassion, as you just said.
Yeah.
And what it sounds, and this has been definitely a big thing I've noticed for myself in the last few years too,
Yeah.
is being able to have compassion, acknowledge, like you just said, that, hey, you're off track, or this is not what you were wanting to do, but
Mm.
not continually to berate and self-shame and spiral down, but just to
Mm.
acknowledge and then go, okay, great, and then move on without really holding on to this resentment or
Mm.
self-loathing.
Mm.
That's the big key, right? Is you can kind of move through it faster without being stuck for hours and days and potentially weeks.
100%. It's so freeing.
Yeah,
Where I think at the start of doing the work and working on yourself, it's so confronting. I remember being like stuck for 2 weeks in one place. I was so confronted by an observation.
Yeah.
that had come up. I was just like, oh man, but then you finally come out the back of it. But that's building that muscle. It's like the showers and the gym and the discipline. Like it takes time to get into the rhythm, but once you're in the routine and rhythm, it's you're kind of away.
Yeah.
You get that momentum. Someone was talking about momentum on a podcast the other day. Who was it? Might have been the Diary of a CEO. The guy Stephen, what's his name? Stephen.
Bartlett, I think it is.
Yeah, but I think he was talking about, or they're talking about sort of once you get those disciplines going, you just build a momentum, and then
Yeah.
it just keeps sort of off it goes.
Yeah, you're changing, so you're building
Mm,
a higher standard, or you're identifying a way of being and living and doing that
mm,
is congruent with your mission, vision, and how you see yourself. And it does, the rewiring of our nervous system does take time,
mm,
like you said. And using the gym analogy again, it's a great analogy that you
mm,
have to put the muscle under load in order
mm,
for the adaptation to take place. And the more you use that particular muscle or do a particular exercise, you're increasing the neural pathways to that muscle and your ability to contract that muscle and know what it feels like. So then it becomes muscle memory. It becomes like an automatic response that you know what
mm,
it's like. It's the same for reshaping habits and behaviors and things. It takes that time so that that becomes the new norm, and it's easy for you now just to kind of automatically step into, say, doing breathing or doing meditation or cold showers or
mm,
being more gentle and compassionate with self. You're changing the way in which you related to yourself in regards to something going wrong,
mm,
whereas you'd been programmed from a young age to show up a certain way, and now you're going, well, hang on a second. Now that I'm aware of that behavior and I can observe that behavior and I'm getting new tools and knowledge and information,
mm.
now I can actually show up differently and I can start to create a new program, a new way of being and doing. And so
Yeah.
that's what you're kind of referring to.
Yeah, it's like I've moved from, a lot of us grow up with criticism, because our parents have grown up with criticism, and then grandparents are growing, and it just gets passed down the generations. I've grown up with a bit of criticism, and so that's where that harsh critique would come from of myself.
Yeah.
But as I've let that go and healed that, it's now moved from when there's a rupture or a breach, or as you said, the lesson pops back up again. Instead of criticizing self, it's actually kind of now going, well, um, as you just said, okay, that's there, it is what it is. But then I'm now able to focus on the bigger goal, my destination a lot clearer.
Yeah.
That overweighs the criticism. I kind of want to
Yeah.
get that
Nice.
piece done and dusted and move through it because I've got bigger things to do. Where
Yeah.
before the criticism, as you said, would just sit there and cycle and spiral, and I'd lose
Yeah.
sight of the destination or the goal very easily.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that makes sense too, right? Because you didn't have any other way shown to you that you
Mm,
knew of consciously, and because you are subconsciously programmed to show up that particular way, that's
mm,
just the natural default. And so,
mm,
what's beautiful now is you're starting to shift, adapt, and change that. So,
mm, mm.
yeah, it's a really beautiful piece to acknowledge with inside yourself.
Yeah.
And, to talk to criticism, you said you grew up with criticism. We all do, right? So
Mm,
we all have these aspects in us, and some of us will potentially have more criticism than others, and maybe have a really highly overcritical parent. Um, and it's how we attach to the perceived criticism and then the meaning we give it that then starts to ingrain the patterns, the beliefs, and then how we show up for ourselves. And so what you're
yeah.
talking about is having really addressed the attachment, the meanings attached, and now start to shift all that and starting to govern yourself. And as we said before, observe yourself versus just being stuck unconsciously inside a pattern.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
It's a really beautiful process.
It is. It is. And my
Yeah.
kids are benefiting from it as well, big time. I've
Yeah.
moved from a very critical father to kind of almost like the opposite, like just let's have fun, you know? I mean, I always had that fun streak in me, but I've moved from, yeah, like highly critical and detailed and finicky to kind of just like, yeah. let's just enjoy life and have fun together because my time with you is quite short, you know. Like you're
Yeah,
gonna grow up soon and leave the nest, and I'm like, I want to make the most of it, you know. And yeah, it's a beautiful
that's
thing, man.
awesome,
So
Joel.
yeah, I really
And
appreciate
it's quite
you and the work that, you've helped me work through, the challenges. It's been good.
yeah, you're
Mm.
most welcome. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's nice just to acknowledge too that as we grow and evolve, as we are, in my belief, souls here having a human experience
Mm.
in order to you know grow as a consciousness and to set ourselves up for these different lessons and things, is that as long as we're here in this form on this earth plane, then we continually have these different things come up, we live in this world of duality, and so it's inescapable. And
Mm.
so it's also really beautiful to acknowledge and surrender to that journey, that as long as we're here, we're always going to experience these different pieces come up that will be challenging, and that is the journey. That's why we're here. And you can kind of relax into that too. And it
Mm.
just changes the perspective on things when they do come up. So,
Mm. Mm.
yeah. But that's a
Awesome.
beautiful way to finish up today. And
It
wherever
is.
you
Yeah.
are listening on your journey of self-discovery and self-exploration, you're at the right place at the right time. And what you're doing for yourself currently is perfect. And if you're listening to this, then you've seeked this out too. And so you were searching for something to dive deeper into yourself and understand things deeper. So just
Mm.
take the time to acknowledge yourself for that. And on that note, it's been a beautiful conversation as usual.
It has.
We'll sign off. Thanks, Joel.
Thanks, Mike.